My name is Tony, and I want to speak today, May the 8th, 2014, about gag orders, specifically regarding medical malpractice judgments and gag orders. And what does that mean? Well, what that means is that the doctor that you seek out online, usually, people have used to go and to the phone book, or you still might ask a friend or a family member, but I think most people now are going online looking up for a specific doctor to help. And I will say from the outset that I have friends that are doctors, and actually some of my family members are in the industry, so it's not a condemnation against the profession. In fact, I think doctors and nurses are very often victims themselves, because they've been trained by the pharmaceutical schools. The medical schools. But these medical schools are backed by pharmaceutical companies. And think about it. Nobody's really been cured by a pharmaceutical. They might, in some cases, be advantageous. There might be reasons for a certain drug, but not the insane amount of overprescribing that we have today. I know personally, when I went in to see a doctor about the migraines that I was having, there was no talk about alternative treatments or even finding out why I was having migraines, and the doctor reached immediately, within 2 to 3 minutes of being in his office, reached for the prescription pad. It's a long story, but I found out that it was really because I wasn't getting enough oxygen at night, and a CPAP actually helped me, and no more migraines. So the medicine was really worthless, and it cost a lot, and it could have done more harm, because a lot of these drugs, even the ones that might help at the onset, actually come often with side effects. Most every synthetic pharmaceutical drug has a side effect, because our bodies were not built or made to take these harsh chemicals into them. So first of all, I would suggest, if you have any aches, pains, or ailments, please try to do a lot of research and try the non-pharmaceutical treatments first. Sometimes it takes more effort and more energy, but in the long run you're going to be healthier and happier. But with regard to gag orders, let's just say that somebody goes in to the doctor, and a big thing that's happening now is not getting prescribed just one drug, because, like I said, a lot of times they have side effects, so the doctor will gladly prescribe a second drug, and a third drug, and a fourth drug, and so forth. This is very dangerous in a lot of ways, because no one really knows the interaction of these drugs, hence the name polypharmacy. We are being so overly prescribed that showing up in society, and now that we're having bizarre behaviors, and all the school shootings, pretty much, the mass shootings, there's veteran suicides, these bizarre behaviors can be directly attributed to the pharmaceuticals. So let's say somebody follows doctor's orders, but they clearly have been harmed, and they go into the doctor, and the doctor might say doubles the dose of a drug, and the person winds up dying. So the family suspects it's the drug, and they take the doctor to court, and during the process, it isn't determined, indeed, the doctor just does not do right, and overly prescribed, didn't catch the signs, and because of that, the person died. So the family would rather have their loved one back, but since that's impossible, then the next thing is to seek a monetary award. Maybe there's children involved, and they need an education, and since the family member that died isn't there to help, then this is probably not the next best thing. It's really a horrible trade-off. but it is what it is. So the attorneys usually decide to not go to trial. The defense attorney, which is often represented by the medical malpractice firm, they don't want to go to trial. The plaintiff's attorney doesn't want to go to trial because juries are unpredictable. So what often happens is there is an agreement made between the attorneys, and then they go to the plaintiff and they convince the plaintiff not to go to trial because of the unpredictability of the jury. And so a deal is made. So there's usually a monetary compensation, but in the agreement there is what's referred to as a gag order. The plaintiff is not allowed to disclose any of the events of the judgment, the amount, the doctor's name, or anything of that nature. And if they do, they are threatened of not only having to pay back the monetary judgment, but they also may be sued. This is not a good thing in a lot of ways, mainly because there is no transparency. So let's say, for example, that I go onto the internet and I'm looking for a doctor, and I see this doctor. He's got like 3 or 4, good reviews from other patients, and I go to the medical board website that is set up, and I see that he has no sanctions, and he looks really like he's got a clean bill of health, but that's not always the case. So you can't just rely on the internet. In fact, it's really hard to find out when there is a bad doctor. So I don't understand. Well, I do understand. It's all about the money. But what can a patient do? Sometimes we have to go to the doctor. I would strongly urge everybody, and I mean everybody, and this is for yourself and for your children, whatever the ailment is, God gave you a brain. You need to go and do some research. And you will find more knowledge, and you will actually probably know more than most doctors if you spend a few weeks, days, months. You can become very educated. And I know a lot of people bash the internet, but I don't go to just one site and take it for what it's worth. There are several key sites like rxisk.org where you can look up the drug, and they can even sometimes say how these drugs interact with other drugs. Now, on polypharmacy, you don't always know how they interact because they haven't had any testing done. And what happens is you have specific cases where we know that people have been injured or worse because of the way these drugs have worked together, and it's not a good thing. So do some research, trust your instinct, your judgment, and also there's plenty of groups out there. In fact, I have a group called Prescription Drug Dangers on Facebook. We have over 2,000 people there, and all kinds of various reasons. We have people who have been victims and survived. We have family members of people who have not survived. We have people just curious. There's all kinds of reasons why there are people there at the website. We have a lot of times people are struggling to taper off their drugs. In fact, we have sometimes people that just cold turkey off. And when specifically with psychotropic drugs, the SSRIs, the SNRIs, the benzodiazepines, even the drugs like the Lunesta and Ambien, the psychotropic drugs, the drugs that work on the brain, never ever stop cold turkey these drugs, because they often it will work against you to cold turkey, and you need to taper. Now, I will back up. Lunesta and Ambien, I'm not so sure that those are addictive, but I do know for a fact that the SSRIs and the SNRIs and the benzos are wickedly addictive. This is something they don't tell you when you're first sitting in the doctor's office. In fact, the doctors often do not even know how to taper people off of these drugs when the bad side effects show up. So it's not even a matter of if, it is when. And even people who have taken drugs long term say to me, oh, I'm fine. I mean, I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for XYZ drug. But what they probably don't know is there's a trade-off. They are, their body, their organs, their liver, their stomach, a lot of their organs are being compromised. And it is a matter of free choice. I mean, when you're an adult, if you've given all the knowledge and you still want to take the drugs, I think that is probably your right to do so. But some of these drugs are so wicked that I think that most people don't really know all about them. So I would say one of the best ways to avoid having situations where a gag order is necessary is to never start the drug in the first place. But anyway, that pretty much sums up gag orders. Thank you for listening.